Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Dubrow Ashley, and today we are here to discuss The Real Housewives of Orange County, Season 16, Episode 9, and baby, there was a whole lot going on from beginning to end. I don't want to jump ahead. Let's just dive right on into this recap because we don't have a minute to spare. We start off this episode right where we left off with Noella and Heather still going at it. So now Noella says, look, I'm sorry, okay? So Heather says, thank you for your apology, like it's cool. So now Noella gets nasty and says, well, we're done then. So now Heather's like, girl, are you serious? Like, you just can't seem to help yourself. Like, I accepted your apology, we're fine now, and now here you go being nasty yet again. So Heather's super irritated. She's like, you know what? Shout out to everybody. I have fun.
Oh! Shout out to everybody. I have fun.
I gotta be good.
But I'm leaving this table because if she's not going to let me speak, then I'm out of here. So now Noella's upset that Heather wants to leave the dinner. And she's like, well, Heather, it's a give and take. I'm like, sis, you don't let anybody get a word in edgewise, so how is it a give and take? It's just you running your mouth and not letting the other person have a chance to speak. So please be quiet. And Heather was way too nice because I would have said, girl, please just shut up because you have been talking nonstop. So now Noella reveals that she was invited on this trip as a pity invite. So Heather says, girl, that's not true. Noella keeps insisting that it was a pity invite. Heather says, you know what, again, I'm going to go back to the villa because I'm not going to sit here and deal with this. So while she's on her way back to the villa, we see Heather in her confessional say that it's always an issue with Noella. There always seems to be some negativity that follows her everywhere. And when I tell you that Heather told no lies, Noella is one of those people where drama seems to follow her wherever she goes. We all know those people where every time you ask them how they're doing, they always are facing some type of catastrophe. And it's like, oh my gosh, do you ever have a good day? Like, I know we all deal with some issues here and there, but I mean, come on. It can't always be a bad day. And like I had said in the last two recaps, there is no way that Gina would have convinced me to invite her on this trip. So Heather's gone, and now Noella directs her anger to Gina. And Gina's like, are you serious right now? Like, you're angry at me because I knew about Heather and this whole card situation? So Noella says yes. So now Gina's pissed off, like, are you serious? Like, I've had your back this entire time. Like, I've been nothing but a friend to you. So for you to turn this on me, like, I'm in shock. Like, I really can't believe you. And Gina, that's what you get because you were sitting up there trying to be her new best friend. And now since she turned on you, now you want to cry about it. I had no sympathy for Gina whatsoever. You knew what kind of person Noella was, but you wanted to be her best friend and not listen to Nicole when Nicole was trying to warn y'all that Noella was a nut. Gina leaves the table, goes back to the villa. She's crying and calling Noella a dick, saying that she's not going to sit up here and drown with everybody, and she's just tired of caring about Noella. So Noella is determined to piss everybody off at this table, and now she gets upset with Emily. So Emily's like, girl, what did I do? Like, I didn't even know about the card situation. Like, nobody told me anything. This was my first time hearing about this tonight. So now Noella says that Emily had her hands in her face. And Emily's like, are you serious right now? So now Emily leaves the table. She's like, you know what? I'm done. I'm going to go check on my friend Gina. So now Dr. Jen is like, girl, what the F just happened? Like, we're the only two left at this table. And remember how Dr. Jen and Noella haven't gotten along. So the irony in them two, laughing and having a good time with each other says a lot. And I was like, Dr. Jen, I would have left that table too because Noella was calling you thirsty and saying that you were a weirdo and all these other names a few episodes ago. So I would not have been breaking bread with her or laughing and trying to comfort her. Absolutely not. She would have been at that table by herself. You're not about to be nice to me only because you've pissed off everybody in the group. So now we see Emily checking on Gina. Gina's in the bed crying. She's like, I can't believe her. Like, Noella attacks everybody. So Emily says, girl, I know, because she just attacked me at the table when you left. So here's my thing. With Noella, you can clearly see that there's a pattern. She's the type to get in really cool with you in the beginning. She comes on really strong. She wants to be your new best friend, but she also wants you to devote all this attention to her and her problems. And when you set a boundary with her, she gets upset. And then she's cursing you out, calling you all sorts of names. And then when she sees that you don't care, now she wants to beg for forgiveness. And we saw her do that with Gina later on in this episode. So now Shannon comes back to the table and she's making Noella and Dr. Jen and herself some margaritas. So she's having a good time. She has all the sombreros on her head. And you know how Shannon is when she's drunk. She's fun, Shannon. And she's so animated. So Shannon is ready to party some more. And Dr. Jen is like, you know what? I need to get some rest. So she goes back up to the villa. And now Emily comes back down on the beach. And it's now Shannon, Emily, and Noella. So now Shannon and Emily get on this donkey piñata. And they both fall off. And I don't know what was going on with Emily because she kept falling. Because when she came back down to join them, she was sitting and talking to them. And then all of a sudden, her chair just like gave way and she was like on the sand. I was like, girl, how did that happen? Like, what is going on? I'm glad the three of them were having a good time. But if I were Emily, I would have been pissed. I would not have gone back down on that beach. I would not be talking to Noella. Like, I would be giving her my ass to kiss because you're not going to sit up here and turn on me while I've been nothing but a friend to you. So now we move on to the next scene. All the ladies are back in Orange County, and we see a cute little segment with Dr. Jen and her daughter, Cece, and they're going to get their nails done. Dr. Jen says that even though she was in Cabo for only 2 days, she still feels guilty because she doesn't want to spend the free time that she does have away from her kids and her husband. May I just be so honest with you? I just really feel sorry for Dr. Jen all the way around. If she's not complaining about her husband, and we're going to get on him in just a minute, don't you worry, because I have some choice words. But it just seems like she is always complaining about something. She's always unhappy about something. She's always worried about something. She's always feeling guilty about something. I'm like, girl, why can't you just ever enjoy yourself and just unwind? It's like she has a million things on her mind. And it made me sad to hear that she felt guilty. I'm like, girl, you can't feel guilty. Like, why are you always just so hard on yourself all the time? My goodness. So while they're getting their nails done, Dr. Jen is asking her daughter what she thinks about the new nanny. And her daughter's like, she's kind of like a mom. And Dr. Jen's like, girl, stop, like, don't play. And then she says, no, I mean, like, she's a mom to the boys, you know, like, she really keeps them in check. And it was so cute because her daughter was, like, so giggly and just, like, so bubbly, like, just such a cute little personality. And it was so funny to hear that she changed her name when she was 1. And Dr. Jen had named her Vera. And at a year old, her daughter said, call me Cece. And that's what they've been calling her ever since. I said, I know that's right. So we see Dr. Jen in her confessional saying how she enjoys being a mom and she does not want her kids to grow up and resent her since she's always working. Now again, y'all know how I feel about the roles being reversed in their marriage, and I feel like that's the reason why they have a whole lot of issues. But again, we'll talk a bit more later on, but I just think that Dr. Jen and this husband of hers, a mess. So now we hop on over to another short scene with Heather and Gina. They're out having lunch, and Heather is letting Gina know that she just came back from taking her kids on college tours. So she's like, we saw Syracuse, and that's where Heather went to college. And then we find out that Gina went to Hofstra. And as a New Yorker myself, I was cracking up at hearing them mention Syracuse and then Hofstra. And then when Gina said that she had done 1 semester at the University of Albany, I was like, girl, oh, Too cold. But then again, I can't talk because I went from cold to colder going to school in Chicago. So, so yeah. But Chicago is a gorgeous city and I did love living there. But I digress. It was just funny because I know quite a few people who went to both schools. So, anyhow, Heather says that she and her family are going to be going to New York again in the next few weeks, and she wants Gina to come and tag along too. And Gina's like, of course, I wouldn't miss another free trip from the Heather Dubrow, so Gina's gonna be there with bells on. And when Heather said, and maybe we can also pop up and hang out in Long Island too while we're there, and I immediately thought, oh, Heather wants to go to Americana Manhasset and do some shopping. That is such a stunning outdoor mall, one of my favorites. And their Hermes store is just stunning. Just, you know what? Let me not get sidetracked, okay? Let's just stick to this recap. Heather says in her confessional that she really enjoys her friendship with Gina and how it's just easy, it's no stress. She doesn't have to watch what she says in front of her. And I get it. Like, I am a big believer in I want an easy friendship. I'm not trying to argue with people. I'm not trying to deal with folks who are jealous or have some hidden animosity, hidden tension. I don't need any of that. I just really want some easy friendships, okay? Like, I just don't have time for the BS or the drama. And even though I don't care a whole lot for Gina, and I make that known in every single recap, I will say that her and Heather's friendship is pretty refreshing to watch. So Gina says that she's excited for their New York trip, and then she jokes around about she hopes it's going to be less stressful than their Cabo trip was. So Heather's like, girl, like, don't get me started on that. So Gina says, you know what really pissed me off? The fact that Noella would question me and my sincerity when I've been nothing but a good friend to her. Then Gina adds that she has no room or no time for crazy in her life. And I'm like, but again, Gina, you saw the pattern with Noella and you chose to ignore it. Heather agrees wholeheartedly with what Gina's saying, and she says, you can feel sorry for somebody and what they're going through, but you can still be protective of yourself. And again, I agree. Just because you're going through a hard time in your life, that doesn't give you the license to be nasty and rude to people. So now we jump to the next scene with Shannon. She's at her boyfriend John's house, and we see that his house is right on the water, and he also has a boat. So we find out that Shannon is having a cute couples night with Heather and Terry and Emily and Shane. Now, can I tell you something? I actually counted how many times Shane spoke during this scene, and he must have said about 2 words. Emily doesn't see anything wrong with her having an antisocial, weird husband. Like, I just don't see the appeal. That man does not speak. And I really feel like he's not attracted to her. I just don't see any chemistry. I know that a few of you guys have told me that their marriage was sort of like an arrangement. Whatever it is, I believe it because I just don't see any love between either one of them. I definitely don't see any sexual attraction either. I mean, the man barely says a word. I'm like, my goodness, you can't say anything? So everybody's on the boat. You already know that Miss Heather is popping the champagne. Shannon is getting the tequila ready, and they sail away. So when I tell you I was screaming because Shannon was really doing the most on that boat to let everybody know that she's a boater, we find out in her confessional that her mom was a West Coast sailing champion and they were always in Orange County every weekend to go on a boat. Shannon goes on to say that she really loves that her and John both have this in common because he loves his boat. She knows a lot about boats too, and it's something that they can bond over. I always think that it's great when you see people in their element. You can tell that Shannon really feels confident. She feels really good when she's on the boat because the way she was moving about, she wasn't frantic or spastic like she usually is. And she was just having a great time. And it's nice to see Shannon like let loose and not be so tightly wound. So they all finished sailing and now they are back at John's house. And it was so nice because they had a nice hibachi dinner waiting for them. They had the chef there. His name was Chef Mac Noodles. And I was like, ooh, like I want to hire him because that food looked delicious. They had steaks out, seafood, grilled chicken. I was like, okay, you're speaking my language here. So Chef Noodles had his brother there assisting him. And Terry goes on to ask if they have the same dads. So Chef Noodles says no, they have different dads, but the same moms. Now, when Terry asked that, I was like, why would you ask that? Like, that's a bit rude, very intrusive. You don't know this man from a can of paint. Why are you asking him his personal business? So now Shannon's boyfriend, John, shares that his dad rejected him. And he was like, I was a great kid. I got great grades. But for some reason, my dad just rejected me. He wanted nothing to do with me. He even wanted me to change my name because John is a junior. So now Terry shares his story about how his dad wasn't around and how he had a terrible stepfather. And he was like, you know, he was just a jackass, just really evil to me, really awful. He didn't really want us around. And he says because of that, that's why he's so successful now, because it's sort of like an FU, like I still made it despite you not giving me any love or support. So now Emily jumps in to share her story about how her parents divorced when she was 6 and her dad was an absent father and they didn't reconnect until she was a lot older. She says that she too relates to Terry about that because she was looking for that validation from both of her parents and never got it. And that's why she went to college and wanted to be a lawyer to show them that she could make it despite them not supporting her. And then she goes on to add that at 45 years old, she's just now realizing that that approval and validation can only come from herself and not anybody else. So while Emily's talking, I'm expecting her husband to maybe pat her on the back, you know, tell her it's okay, try to comfort her and show support. And he's literally just sitting there looking at her uninterested and then going on to eat his food. And again, I don't know why Shane bothers me so much, but he just does. I don't understand how Emily's able to deal with such an unaffectionate man. Like, he doesn't show her any care or support, like no love. Like, I just don't get it. How can you sit there while your wife is pouring her heart out and you're not trying to comfort her and let her know that it's going to be okay? I have to say, I really did enjoy this scene. It was nice to hear about Terry's background and John's background and Emily's background. And it was really interesting to see how they all had similar stories. And because they were rejected, they worked super hard to prove everybody wrong. And I can understand that on some level. I told you guys a story about, you know, how some people who I thought were cool were saying some really nasty things when I decided to follow my dream and start my own YouTube channel. And when I was starting out in the beginning, there was a lot of that, okay, you know, just wait, I'm gonna show them, like, I'm gonna show them. You know, I had somebody send me a screenshot of a stranger saying that they hoped that I dropped dead and that my YouTube channel would never succeed and do anything. I had people say that I would never even hit 500 subscribers. And now here we are almost at 11,000 subscribers, honey, with 1 million plus views, honey. Okay? With the Housewives watching me, okay? And it's like, yeah, what was that?
Bling, bling, bling. Bitches is mad.
That hate and that rejection, that can really propel you forward. It really is a blessing in disguise because maybe I would have gotten lazy, maybe I wouldn't have gone so hard if everybody had supported me. But because I had something to prove, it was like, oh no, like we're not quitting. Because it is easy to quit in the beginning when you're only getting, 20 views and only, 2 subscribers. But it was like, no, we're going to keep doing this. We're going to keep on, we're going to prove the ones who said I couldn't do it wrong. And here we are. But I just thought it was really beautiful at them sharing their stories. And it's funny how we can all relate to each other in some way, shape, or form. But let that also be a lesson. You don't need everybody to support you. As long as you see it for yourself, you can do whatever you put your mind to, okay? Like, that is my little PSA nugget for the day, all right? Like, and if nobody else is rooting for you, know that I'm rooting for you, all right? So you just let the haters know that the Brooke Ashley is rooting for me. So now we move on to the next scene with Shannon, Emily, and Noella hanging out at Shannon's favorite spot, the Quiet Woman. And when I tell you that this restaurant has been a staple since Shannon has gotten on this show, like that is her place. So while Shannon and Emily are waiting for Noella to arrive, Shannon's like, have you spoken to her? And Emily says that yes, her and Noella actually hung out a few days ago at the pier and they had a good conversation. So now Noella arrives and I have to say, I like that bustier she was wearing, very pretty. So she sits down, she orders her drink, and they bring up the Cabo trip. So Noella says that she wants to talk to Gina and straighten things out, but Gina has not been answering or returning her calls. So now Noella says that their friendship happened really fast and they went really deep, and to have their friendship end like this really hurts. But again, Noella, you have nobody to blame but yourself. You're the one who got nasty with Gina on the trip. And to add insult to injury, Gina is the one who vouched for you to come on the trip. So for you to do that to her, of course she'd feel some type of way. Noella has got to grow up. She has got to stop treating people poorly and then expecting them to just still stay by her side. That's not how this works. So now they change the topic and Emily brings up how Dr. Jen told her that Noella had gotten her husband a stack of vaginas for his birthday one year. So Shannon's like, girl, what? Like, a stack of vaginas? What does that mean? Like, explain this to me, please, because I'm not understanding. So Noella's laughing and she's like, Dr. Jen told you that? Really? Like, way to tell all my business. Like, talk about her marriage. Now I said, Noella, you know you love the attention, and had Emily not brought this up, you probably would have brought this up. Noella is the first person to discuss her sex life. When I tell you that it seems like every other sentence out of her mouth is about threesomes and her being bisexual. It's like, hi, my name is Noella, I'm bisexual. Would you like a drink? I'm bisexual. So, hey, how's the weather? Did you know I'm bisexual? It's like she always has to insert that into a conversation. So after Noella finishes pretending like she doesn't want to talk about this, she now wants to show Emily and Shannon a picture of this stack of vaginas. Child, Noella shows the picture, and I was like, they were stacked on top of each other like 3 pancakes. And I was also confused, like, how is that fun or pleasurable for anybody? Like, are you guys just sitting there for like 10 minutes? Like, how does that work? I was just trying to wrap my mind around it. Now we jump on over to the next scene, and it's Dr. Jen at home, and Heather's over. Heather is always going to bring the fabulosity each and every time. Heather came over with the champagne, as always, and she also brought over 2 pineapples and her pineapple slicer. And I loved how she poured the champagne in the pineapple. I said, now that's how you do it.
I love it. I love it.
They go outside to chat and talk and drink their pineapples. And Heather's asking where Jen's family is. So Dr. Jen says that her husband and kids are out at some end of summer dinner, but she didn't get the invite. It almost feels like her husband doesn't want the kids to be close to her, because she is always saying something about they did some activity without her or they don't want her to come. So Jen starts telling all her problems and she's like, Heather, me and Ryne are not in a good place at all. Like every time he comes back from Hawaii, we always fight. And I cried for 2 hours last night. Now I said, I have a feeling that he's in Hawaii to see another woman and not for work. Just my personal opinion, I'm not buying that he has business out there. I think it's another woman. So Jen continues by saying that there's a lot of resentment on both sides because she built the businesses and he raises the kids. In my personal opinion, I feel like her husband feels emasculated since she's the breadwinner and she's constantly talking about how she's built the businesses, how she makes the money, and I think that he feels some sort of way. And another reason why I feel like that dynamic doesn't seem to work. So now Heather gives Dr. Jen some advice and she says that Dr. Jen is all in her career, but not in her marriage. And in order to make her marriage work, she needs to be all in. And I'm like, Heather, her husband is the one who seems to be not all in. He seems to be very checked out, like he could care less about Jen. So Heather continues by saying that Dr. Jen has to prioritize her family and that relationships are work, but it's worth it in the long run. In my personal opinion, and this is no shade, I just don't see Dr. Jen and her husband Ryan's marriage going the distance. I will not be surprised if they file for divorce by the time we get to the reunion. Just my personal opinion, but I don't see it. So now we move on to Emily's game night at her house. So we see Noella arrive first, then Gina arrives with the tequila, and you could see that Noella's kind of nervous to be around Gina because of how things left off in Cabo. So Noella's trying to make small talk with Gina. She's giving her a hug. And then she's like, you see my dress? It's leopard, because since you're from Jersey, I thought that I would wear like something kind of Jersey-esque. So Gina's like, girl, I am not from Jersey. Like, what are you saying? I was like, Noella, girl, just be quiet. Like, just be quiet. Like, all you need to say was hi, and just that's it. And Gina is nicer than me because I would have paid Noella dust. Like, I would have just let her feel it. Like, girl, don't talk to me. Don't come near me. Back up. Give me 50 feet, please. Give me at least 6 feet because of COVID. So Shannon arrives, and baby, Shannon's outfit had me screaming, honey. She had on her Gucci pants and this Louis Vuitton bandana wrapped around her head. She came ready to play and to win. So they start playing their games. The first game is like suck and blow, where they have to suck some M&Ms through a straw. Then the second and third game involved toilet paper. So I was like, these games are kind of stupid, but they did look fun and they were all having a good time. And every time somebody said the word vagina, they all had to take a shot. So now Emily's trying to be funny and she pushes Shannon down on the chair and she lays on top of her to give a demonstration. And then Noella tops it off and gets on top of Emily and they're laughing. So Gina's like, wait, what? Like, I know we've all seen porn before, but we ain't never seen that. Like, I know I haven't. But they're all laughing, and Noella says that this was her sexual fantasy and her birthday present. So now Gina and Noella go outside to resolve their issues. Gina starts off the conversation by saying how she felt hurt when Noella said that she didn't trust her when they were in Cabo. Then Gina goes on to say, and also Heather had every right to express how she felt about that gift. So of course, Noella is not listening to what Gina's saying at all, and she has the nerve to say that Gina betrayed her. So Gina's like, girl, how did I betray you? Like, what are you saying right now? Like, you're paranoid, because that makes no sense. The minute that Noella would have said that I betrayed her, I would have just walked off and went back into the party, because I'm not going to sit up here and allow you to play in my face like this. Noella cannot take responsibility for anything that she says or does. She is always trying to place the blame on somebody else. And do you know how annoyed I was to agree with Gina? So now Gina says, look, I think the best thing for us would be to just take a step back and just reevaluate this friendship and start from scratch. Now we finally get to the final scene of the night, and one of the biggest moments that occurred in this episode, and that is Dr. Jen with her awful husband, Ryne. So she's asking about his day. She wants to know how the kids' first day of school went. So Ryan's telling her, it was a smooth day, everything went well, no complaints. So now Dr. Jen starts telling him about her day and how she was up to like 3 a.m. She had a really challenging day, and she feels like her husband isn't listening to her. So Dr. Jen says, babe, I just want validation from you. I want to know that you're proud of me. So now her husband gives her the driest praise I have ever heard. He's like, yeah, babe, I'm so proud of you. Like, you're doing great. It's so forced. He obviously doesn't mean it. He's just trying to get her to stop bothering him. And you can tell that he just wants this conversation to be over. So now Dr. Jen is like, I just feel like you're just saying that to be saying that. I don't feel the emotion or the love behind that. I said, Jen, you don't hear how crazy you sound begging for your husband's validation? Like, I'll be damned. I would never beg anybody. And the day it has to come to that, I will be signing divorce papers, because absolutely not. Dr. Jen is really trying to overlook the obvious, that her husband just isn't that into her. It was so rude of him to be playing with the dog. And then when Dr. Jen was like, hey, babe, can you put the dog like in the house? Like, let the kids play with him. But like, I just want your undivided attention. And he was like, nope, like I want the dog to, sit here on my lap. It's clear that he's more into the dog than he is his wife. I'm just not going to beg anybody to stay. So when I see things like this, it's very painful. Like, I'm just not begging a man to stay with me. I'm not begging friends. Like, I'm not begging anybody. You either want to be in my life or you don't. So now Ryne says to her that it's hard to communicate with her and how it's always the Dr. Jen show. So I said that right there tipped me off that there might be some jealousy on his part at the fact that she's successful and he's not doing too much. So now Ryne says to her, you know what? Let's not talk about this. I'm done talking about this. Like, I'm over it. So now Dr. Jen's like, why? Like, why can't we talk about it? And he says, I don't want to talk about it. Now he gets up and he says, I'd rather not right now. And then he pats her on the back and goes inside with the dog. That was just so dismissive and so rude. And to do that to your wife, I said I wanted Dr. Jen to get up and throw that glass of wine in his face. And if we're being honest, he's really not that cute. I don't know what it is, but it seems like the majority of all the husbands on OC are weird. So the episode ends with Dr. Jen following her husband inside, and we hear her say to him in the bedroom, why can't we just talk about it? So now we hear him say, if you can't respect my wishes, then I'm going out for a walk, and that's where everything ends. Again, this is a hot, raggedy mess, and I do not believe that their marriage is going to make it. And it seems like later on in this season, we're going to see that her husband has packed up and left the house. So it's not looking too good. But all in all, another good episode from OC. You already know I want to hear what you guys think about everything. As always, thank you all for watching my recap. I hope you all enjoyed. And please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you all later. Bye.